His Holiness is always very approachable, even though he has a very super high status comparing to most people. Joking with people and genuinely joking, not acting joking, right? He laughs until people sometimes have to wait for him to stop.
Hello, Namo Buddhaya, Namaskar. Today with me, Venerable Mahayano here. I welcome you in my home. And of course, he came from far away from Thailand and he just arrived today this morning. Of course, you might be tired, but you came here and we had good discussion before taking your interview. He's a very nice practitioner of Theravadan tradition. Of course, he also engaged with this, the Sanskrit tradition or with the Tibetan Buddhism. So I am very much curious to know about the Thai people and what they think about this Sanskrit tradition. So I would like to ask Venerable few questions. So these are just not like some professional way, just a normal way, like a conversation. So first of all, I want to ask that for how long have you been in this Sanskrit tradition? I mean, listening His Holiness and other teachers in this Sanskrit tradition, all this, we can also say this Mahayana tradition. So I want to request you to tell our people so they can also get motivated.
Actually, I first started with the teachings in the Mahayana tradition. Initially I attended the teachings from Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh.
Okay.
And that was the first time I got interested in Buddhism. And I thought, at that time, everyone who shaved their head and followed the Buddha is the same.
Okay.
And I thought I would ordain for a short time. In the Thai tradition, we have a short ordination to learn the Dhamma. So I thought that, okay, I will try it out for a short time. And then I looked for a place to ordain. And I was in Thailand, so eventually I ended up ordaining in the Thai tradition. And it's been 7 years after I ordained that I realized that there seems to be differences of traditions. Mm-hmm. And then I started to learn more. And eventually, I think it was about 3 years ago when I was more closely related to Tibetan Buddhism, when I came to Dharamsala and stayed here for a while. Okay. Yeah.
This is very interesting that whenever you came for short term, but now you become like a long term like monk, right? This is very, very nice because the Buddha Sasan, or the Buddha teaching has so much powerful message for everyone. So many people's life changes. So I am very much fortunate to have you here, and of course that I get to know you have been with Tibetan tradition last like 3 years. And Venerable, during these 3 years, so what did you find? How I'm not comparison like Tibetan tradition or Theravada tradition. So what kind of like a specialty or the quality you find in this tradition for last 3 years?
Okay. So I think what I find that I really made me interested in looking at different traditions eventually is that when I feel like I start to understand the Dhamma, I see the same Dhamma in every teaching of different traditions, but it's the same quality that is emphasized in different ways, or the same quality that is driven to by different style of practices or different directions, but leading to the same thing. And for me, that is very convincing for me that this is the right path. That it means everyone who walks the path, no matter how different they start off, they eventually ended up at the same place or the same quality. And I feel the Mahayana tradition or the Tibetan tradition has a lot more inclusive way of dealing with the world and relationships and people. In the Theravada tradition, it's more emphasized that you are more secluded or you are more with yourself.
Yeah, that on your own.
Yeah, it has a lot more emphasis on being on your own. And that is not right or wrong. It's just that is the main emphasis. And in the Mahayana tradition, you seem to incorporate everything else into the path. And that's maybe two different aspects of how you actually should live your life. Know how to be in a secluded situation and make the best of it, and know how to be with everybody else and everything else and make the best of it. And if you can merge these two dimensions of life, I think that would make you you get a full picture of everything. So for me, having seen the ways that the Tibetan or the Mahayana teachings deliver the Dhamma, it's very down to earth, it's very compatible with life, and I think that is what I was looking for at that time.
So Banteji, beside the Buddhism or like a Sanskrit tradition which the Tibetan are following, and what do you think about the people of Tibet and their culture?
I think the Tibetan tradition and Tibetan people, since they are very much Buddhist, and their main emphasis in Buddhism seems to be revolve around bodhicitta. And I feel like that is the core of what I see in the Tibetan people. No matter how the situation seems to be, I mean, that is the quality that usually either shines out or deep down always there within whatever they feel they're doing. And I think that is the foundation of their culture or how they relate to others. So looking from the outside, I feel Tibetan people are mostly compassionate most of the time. No one's perfect. I think that's their foundation. And I feel they are very loving, smiling all the time, easy to laugh, easy to make friends with. Maybe not so easy to make them fight with you or angry at you. And that's a very, very good quality in a person. Yeah. And in terms of culture, I feel like the more you look into the Tibetan culture, you see the vast knowledge and depth of art, science, and philosophy. Like they seem to have very deep learnings in almost all aspects of how one conducts life.
Of course, you have been listening His Holiness for many years. So what do you think about His Holiness? What kind of feeling you have for him? And of course, you as a monk, so you can consider him as a senior monk. So what kind of feeling you have, and what kind of a person he is in your eyes or in your feelings?
Well, His Holiness is a very big figure, and usually you feel like if you are that level of a public person, he should be someone very out of reach and very hard for you to connect to, right? But I feel like when you meet His Holiness closely, like once in a while you see him, or when you see him relate to normal people, His Holiness is always very approachable, even though he has a very super high status comparing to most people. But he seems to always be down to earth, joking with people, and genuinely joking, not acting joking, right? He laughs until people sometimes have to wait for him to stop. And he's not laughing at you. He seems to always laugh with people and make everyone enjoy life. And that's a good quality. And also, when you attend his teaching, when His Holiness gives teachings, he seems to shift into a very high level professional in terms of academic, in terms of really understanding the Buddha Dhamma. So that's two very seems to be difficult to be compatible, but His Holiness has that in him. and he's very down to earth, but also a very high level. When you see him, you feel the trust in the Dhamma, that okay, if you are someone who has practiced and accomplished certain levels of the practice on the path, and you become like His Holiness, I think that is a good outcome for you to look up to. Um, and also not, it's difficult for us to relate to His Holiness because he's quite far, but you can see many people who we would look up to, they all look up to His Holiness, and the close people who are with His Holiness, they reflect how His Holiness conducts himself as well. Like many people who I would respect very much, they have a lot of deep respect to His Holiness once they have a deeper connection with him. So I feel the world at large and His Holiness students and the Buddha Dhamma benefited a lot from having someone like His Holiness in our lifetime.
And the last question one thing I would like to ask, because His Holiness always say about the Thai or the Theravadan tradition, and this he always said this is our root, or kind of how to say, without understanding that the Theravadan tradition or Pali tradition, it's difficult to understand like a higher level. So this is the foundation of Buddha Dhamma. So, and he always admired the Thai tradition and Thai monks and the Buddhist for like last 1 decade. Many Thai people now coming to Dharamsala time to time to listen His Holiness teaching. Not only monks, also layperson, they come and listen to him. So, as you are Thai monk, so what kind of feeling the Thai people have towards His Holiness?
I think Thai people mostly they are Thai people have a deep respect for monks usually, and monks who are respected by a lot of other monks, they usually feel a high respect to that particular high level, high status monks. But for His Holiness especially, I think Thai people are very familiar with His Holiness because of a lot of his teachings has been translated into Thai, and they are teachings that are very approachable. And His Holiness has visited Thailand, I think twice, connecting to some of the major Thai monks, Ajahn Buddhadasa, for example, and people in Thailand respect Ajahn Buddhadasa a lot. And connecting that leads them to have a lot of respect to His Holiness. And His Holiness has been doing so many great things, not only in Buddhism, for the whole world, and people see that. And the way that he conducts himself, the way that he emphasizes the coming together of different traditions, I think these are all very positive qualities of His Holiness that people can see and sense. And I think Thai people basically want to get closer to His Holiness if it's possible for them. But the language barrier, the cultural barrier, the economic barrier, sometimes they cannot really show that or sometimes they want to connect, but it's a bit far for them. So maybe if that bridge can be developed, I think more people would be able to connect and learn from His Holiness. And the Tibetan people in general. Not His Holiness is like the first step where people reach to when they want to learn about Tibetan or Vajrayana Buddhism, and then that can spread to other teachers as well. I think these days they are all coming together.
Thank you so much. And of course, you know a lot about this tradition, and you have been with like exchange Thai, how to say, Pali Sanskrit tradition. You also help them with language, as you say, the language barrier. So yes, this is the thing. The language barrier is very difficult to understand each other's tradition they have in their mind. Because I can say, last time I met one group who came from Thailand, and I went to see them. They're like 10-15 people, and I asked them, "Did you meet His Holiness? Why? How did you feel?" He said, "Very nice. So he's so nice, and we feel so happy," something like that. But one person say we couldn't understand anything. We don't know what is His Holiness, what is Tibet. Then when I spoke with them like more than 1 hour, with many aspect, and many of them they were crying. Then say, oh, we should know such kind of thing about Tibetan and His Holiness, about the Tibet culture. So this is just the one story I want to share with you. They want to know. They have as you say, this is the big difficulties to the language barrier, and hope like you who knows very well English and understand the philosophy can serve more and more for understanding of Tibet tradition and this like a Sanskrit tradition towards the Thai people. Thank you, Venerable. Thank you so much. Sawadee Krap.